What? Hannah's pregnant? She's only 18. And you're pregnant too. The news hit me like a 1-2 punch. I was stunned, but on some level, it made a sick kind of sense. It was all part of the plan. A dry chuckle escaped my lips. Well, isn't this interesting? If you're going to take everything from me, then I'll take everything from you. I'm 30 years old. My parents died 7 years ago when I was 23. Their car went off a cliff on a mountain road. The police ruled it an accident, and I was left with a massive insurance payout. For a while, my world went dark. The thought of ending it all was a constant companion, but I never had the guts to go through with it. I became a recluse, locking myself away in our old house. It was the only place I felt safe, the only place an accident couldn't find me. 6 months into that living death, a light broke through the gloom. Her name was Sophia Ross. And the other girl, Hannah, she's Sophia's younger sister. It was 7 years ago today. I was dragging 2 heavy trash bags out of my apartment, just another zombie shuffling through the motions. As my door swung open, the one across the hall did too. I didn't pay it any mind. Get the trash out, get back inside, hide. That was the mission. But then a voice stopped me. Are you? Ethan Miller. The sound of my own name, spoken by a stranger, sent a jolt through my system. I stumbled. Yeah. Who are you? I turned slowly, my face a mask of confusion. A woman stood there, a flicker of recognition in her eyes. You don't remember me? She asked, a smile playing on her lips. Sophia Ross. We had a few classes together in college. How could I forget? Sophia Ross was the girl I crushed on for 4 years straight. From the first day of freshman year, I was completely captivated. It wasn't that she was a supermodel, but she had this presence, an aura that pulled me in. We were classmates, but we barely exchanged a dozen words in 4 years. Sophomore year, she started dating my roommate, Leo Vance. Then, for some reason I never quite understood, Leo's whole family moved out of the country. The long-distance thing fizzled out, and Sophia was single again. I snapped back to the present. Of course. Sophia. From college. Hey, what are you doing here? I live here. Can you believe it? Same building, right across the hall. What are the odds? She held out her hand. I was a mess. In her expectant gaze, I felt clumsy and exposed. I wiped my sweaty palm on my jeans and tentatively shook her hand. Hi. Hi. Don't be so formal, Ethan. We're neighbors now. Old classmates. It must be fate. We chatted on the way to the dumpsters. After I'd gotten rid of the trash, I walked with her to the corner store while she picked up a few things. She invited me over to her place. I tried to make an excuse, but her warmth was relentless. I ended up sitting on her couch, feeling more human than I had in months. Whatever happened to Leo? I asked. We broke up not long after he moved, she said with a shrug. It's a shame, I guess. But long distance is brutal. I could barely get a hold of him. Eventually, we just had to call it. Yeah, that's tough, I said. We talked for a long time, catching up on the half year since graduation. Somehow, the conversation drifted to my parents. I clammed up, the memories rushing back, threatening to pull me under. But she was patient. She comforted me. And for the first time, I found the courage to speak about the grief I'd sealed away for 6 months. The summer after graduation, my mom and dad were driving up from their home in Allentown to help me move. On a winding mountain road, a sharp turn. The police said they swerved to avoid an oncoming car, lost control, and went over the edge. They didn't give me many details. Just close the case. An accident. I told her everything. The darkness, the fear, the suffocating loneliness. She listened, her eyes full of a sympathy that felt real. In the weeks and months that followed, she became my lifeline. She'd drag me out of the house for road trips, dinners, movies, anything to get me back into the world. She slowly pieced me back together. During one of those trips, I planned everything down to the last detail. A grand, public proposal. Maybe it was the atmosphere, the strangers all around us chanting, say yes, say yes. Or maybe it was her pity for the broken man I'd been. Or maybe, just maybe, she felt something of the love I felt for her. At the time, I didn't know or care. All that mattered was that she said yes. I had finally won the girl of my dreams. We got married. I, in my blind adoration, put most of the insurance money and our finances in her name. I was happy to be a stay-at-home husband while she built her career. But then, slowly she changed. I was too blissfully ignorant to see it then. It's only recently that the pieces have clicked into place. Looking back now, I see it all. It was never a love story. It was a heist, a conspiracy to destroy my life and take everything I had. I pulled up to the city's best hospital, killed the engine, and smoked a cigarette down to the filter before forcing myself out of the car. The moment I stepped through the automatic doors, I heard the shrieking. It was Sophia's mother, Sharon, tearing into Hannah in the middle of the hallway. "You little slut. Tramp. Barely legal and already knocked up. What is wrong with you?" The words were acid, each one designed to melt Hannah where she stood. A small crowd of onlookers had gathered, their faces a mixture of pity and morbid curiosity. Hannah just stared at the floor, taking it. Sophia sat on a nearby bench, not even trying to intervene. She glanced sideways with a smug, satisfied look, occasionally offering a placid, distracted reply to her father's doting questions. I walked over slowly. When Hannah saw me, a flicker of a smile broke through the gloom on her face. I stepped between her and her mother, catching Sharon's hand just as it was about to connect with Hannah's cheek. "That's enough, Sharon. Let's go. We can talk about this at home." Sophia's father, Steve, finally noticed me. "Ethan, well, look at this. I'm going to be a grandfather." I forced a smile. "Hey, Steve." I stiffly helped Sophia to her feet, and under the gawking eyes of the strangers in the hallway, I led my fucked-up family back to the car. The ride home was silent, filled only by the drone of the engine. Sophia, in the passenger seat, looked relaxed, almost giddy. I just gripped the wheel, my knuckles white, and sneered inwardly. I was just a chauffeur. Her happiness wasn't because she was pregnant with my child. It was because she was pregnant with the child of her one true love, the ghost she could never shake. And as for Hannah being pregnant, I already knew. The shock on the phone call was an act, all for their benefit. Before I married Sophia, I thought the Rosses were a perfectly happy family. It was only after we were married that I saw the truth. Sophia and her parents were a tight, loving unit. But Hannah, if you didn't know better, you'd think she wasn't related to them at all. A stranger in her own home. Later, I learned that she wasn't their biological daughter. After the wedding, Sophia moved into my apartment across the hall, while her parents and Hannah stayed in their old place. For a while, I'd hear terrible argument from their apartment. Shouting, things breaking, the faint sound of weeping. I'd ask Sophia if everything was okay, if we should check on them. She'd always brush it off. "Oh, that's just my mom. She's got a temper. Don't worry about it." But I did worry. It was their family, though, so I stayed out of it. One day, Hannah came over. Sophia had made some excuse. She was craving my cooking, so I'd invited Hannah for dinner. Her parents declined. That evening, I noticed fresh bruises on Hannah's arms. Before I could ask, Sophia jumped in. "Oh, Hannah's always been like that. Bruises like a peach. Super sensitive skin." I let it go, but the knot in my stomach tightened. After dinner, Hannah seemed desperate to stay, lingering until Sophia finally pushed her out the door to go do her homework. Something was deeply wrong. On a weekend when Sophia was working late, Hannah came over for dinner again. I finally asked her what was going on. For a moment, she looked like she was about to shatter. But after a long silence, she took a deep breath and told me everything. She started by thanking me for being so kind to her. She made me promise not to tell a soul what she was about to say. I agreed. The first bomb she dropped was that Steve and Sharon weren't her real parents. She was the daughter of Steve's old friend. When she was little, her parents had left her with the Rosses for what was supposed to be a short time. During that period, they jumped from a building and killed themselves. An investigation revealed they'd lost everything in the stock market. Suddenly, Hannah, her name was actually Hannah Clark back then, was an orphan. The Rosses were going to send her to a foster home. But while going through their friends' belongings, they found a letter. It begged them to raise Hannah until she was 18. They could even change her name to Ross. At first, Sharon was against it. But then, for some reason, she had a change of heart and eagerly agreed to adopt the girl. Her motive became clear soon enough. "That house your parents owned is ours now," she'd tell little Hannah. "Don't even think about trying to get it back when you're older. This is the least you can do to repay us for raising you." But then a court ruled that the house had to be sold to cover her parents' debts. The life that had been barely tolerable for Hannah plunged into an icy hell. Sharon raged, wanting to dump the newly named Hannah Ross at an orphanage, but the adoption was already finalized. From that day on, Hannah never lived a day of peace. Sharon called her a jinx, a money pit, a curse who'd driven her own parents to their deaths. If Hannah dared to cry, it would earn her a beating. Steve, at first, would try to intervene, but Sharon's was iron. Over time, he was worn down, and soon the entire family took out their frustrations on her. Sophia, the perfect older sister, would just watch from the sidelines, as if it were all a show put on for her entertainment. Hannah had tried to run away, to call the police, but Steve had friends on the force. Each time she was caught, the beatings were worse. Eventually, her life became a state of semi-imprisonment. She gave up all hope of resistance. I told her how sorry I was, but when she talked about Sophia, I couldn't help but defend her. Sophia's not like that. She must have her reasons. I'm sorry, Hannah whispered. It's okay. I understand why you'd feel that way. Then she changed the subject. Hey, Ethan, do you know Leo Vance? The name hit me out of nowhere. Yeah, I know him. College roommate. Why? What about him? Nothing. I just used to hear them talk about him a lot. She looked like she wanted to say more, but held back. She was only 16 then. After she opened up to me that day, I became her lifeline. She only ever seemed to smile when she was around me. I'd buy her things she needed, secretly slip her some cash, and whenever I got a gift for Sophia, I'd get one for her too. As time went on, I noticed Hannah was getting more and more attached to me. I started to keep my distance, but that only seemed to make her more desperate. I never imagined it would lead to this. Back at the house, Sharon dragged Hannah upstairs while plotting with Steve to force her to have an abortion. That shameless little tramp, getting knocked up by God knows who. Whoring around. How are we supposed to marry her off for a decent price now? She's always been worthless. The baby has to go. I sighed and play my part. No, Sharon, think about it. What if the abortion complicates things? What if she can't have kids later? Then we'd really get nothing for her. This was her world. They never cared about what happened to Hannah, only about what price she would fetch. The only reason they even sent her to school was so her lack of education wouldn't lower her value on the marriage market. They were already scouting potential husbands. But this time, there was no way in hell I was letting anyone touch Hannah's baby. Because, you have a point, Sharon conceded. Fine, let the bitch have the baby, then we'll get rid of it. At the mention of getting rid of the baby, Hannah's face went pale with panic. She shot me a desperate, pleading look. I gave her a subtle shake of my head, a silent promise that it would be okay, but said nothing more. The conversation shifted from Hannah's problem to Sophia's miracle. I can't believe it. Finally going to be a grandfather. Steve beamed. Yep, all thanks to Ethan's magic touch, right, Ethan? Sophia said with a sly, mocking smile, putting extra emphasis on magic touch. I smiled back. That's right. If I didn't know the truth, I might have actually believed it. But in a way, I guess my touch was magic. Just not with her. After we got married, Sophia had a million excuses to avoid sleeping with me. It was too soon. She needed to focus on her career. Not long after the wedding, she suggested we sleep in separate rooms. I was so lost in the fantasy of our marriage that I actually agreed to that insane request. Pathetic. It wasn't until about a month ago that she suddenly, eagerly, invited me into her bed. I was surprised at the time, but now I know exactly what was going on. She needed to pin this baby on me. But I'd used a condom that night. In fact, I hadn't even done anything. I was afraid of catching something from her. She'd even mocked me for it, calling me weak. She had no idea the real reason was fear. And she certainly had no idea that I was already giving my all to someone else, all thanks to her. So, not only had I done nothing, I'd been careful. And after that one night, she went right back to her own room. And now she has the audacity to tell me this baby is mine. The only people who would believe that lie are her and her clueless parents. A year ago, her parents had moved out. Sophia gave them a chunk of money and sent them on a long trip. At the same time, she started taking frequent business trips, gone 9 days out of 10, never telling me the details. In the beginning, I'd cook dinner and wait for her like an idiot. Eventually, I stopped. My new routine was waiting for Hannah to get home from school, and we'd eat together. One day, Hannah quietly mentioned that maybe Leo Vance was back in town. I told her it was impossible. No one had heard from Leo in years. He was probably hiding out from creditors in some third-world country. I wasn't just guessing. After Hannah first mentioned his name, I'd spent years asking old college friends about him. I found out his parents had broken the law, got sentenced to 10 years in prison. Leo was left with a mountain of their debt, and had skipped the country with help from a relative. I had no love for the guy. He dated Sophia, but now, hearing Hannah say it, a seed of doubt was planted. From that day on, I started following Sophia. A few times I almost got caught. I staked out her office, her favorite spots. I confirmed she was flying to different cities, checking into hotels, going to bars. But I never saw her with anyone else. Until I did, a pattern emerged. After a few days in a new city, a man would show up. Always the same man, though he tried to disguise himself. One time I risked it all. I walked right past him, a deliberate, close brush in a hotel lobby. My blood ran cold. Hannah was right. It was Leo Vance. He was back. The man who had vanished from the face of the earth was not only back, but he had my wife. No, that's not right. My wife was throwing herself at him. I broke. I went home, trashed my study, and collapsed in a corner, sobbing. When Hannah came home, she found a wreck of a room instead of a hot meal. She called my name, frantic, until she found me curled in the dark. I couldn't stop the tears. I fell apart in the arms of a girl, a whole generation younger than me. She had become my only anchor. Driven by the raw emotion of the moment and by her insistence, I told her everything. She wanted to comfort me, but didn't know what to say. I patted her arm, telling her I had to accept the truth. I told her that years of devotion meant nothing against the ghost of first love. I urged her to forget about me and focus on her senior year, to get into a good college and finally live for herself. After learning about Sophia's affair, I set my plan in motion. I hired a private investigator to gather evidence of her cheating. In my spare time, I dug into the real reason Leo had fled the country and why he had suddenly returned. To make sure my plan wouldn't be discovered, I played the long game. For 6 months, I did nothing, just quietly collected proof and investigated the two of them, positioning myself to win big in the divorce settlement. But as the evidence mounted and the investigation deepened, I uncovered a secret so monstrous, so insane, it nearly broke me. It twisted me into something that no longer felt human. This truth changed everything. It made me tear up my old plans. Those two hadn't just betrayed me. They had destroyed my entire world. I couldn't believe how pathetic, how utterly laughable my life had been. The initial information about why Leo fled was correct, but it was missing the most crucial details. I found out why his parents went to prison. They were long-haul truckers, but they weren't just hauling cargo. They were running an insurance fraud scheme. Leo's family had never been wealthy. Desperate for money, his parents had borrowed from everyone they knew, taken out loans, and bought a semi-truck. But the logistics business wasn't the gold mine they'd hoped for. They weren't even breaking even. So, somehow, they learned a new trade, insurance scams. Leo's parents had gotten away with a few smaller cons, but one day they got sloppy. Or maybe it wasn't sloppiness at all. They were on a winding mountain road, attempting a risky, illegal pass. They caused an accident, a horrific one. Afterward, they were recorded at the scene, utterly callous. Felt like a speed bump to me, one of them said. Talk to my insurance, said the other. And, chillingly, we're all just trying to survive out here. When it was confirmed that the other driver had died, the police launched a full investigation. They uncovered the long history of insurance fraud and sent Leo's parents to prison. They were locked up, but Leo wasn't in the truck, so he walked free. However, with all their assets seized, their massive debts fell squarely on his shoulders. He had no choice but to flee the country. And the reason Sophia agreed to marry me, part of it was that Leo was gone, yes. But she hadn't told me the whole truth. She wasn't out of contact with him. They were talking the entire time. Her real reason for getting close to me was the inheritance. She knew my parents' death had left me with a fortune. Her entire mission was to get me to hand over control of my assets, so she could pay off Leo's debts. The only reason Leo was able to come back to the U.S. was because Sophia had been steadily wiring him my money. But he didn't come back alone. He brought a wife. The deeper I dug, the more absurd it became. Sophia wasn't just doing this out of some misguided love. Leo had ordered her to. He told her to find a rich idiot, marry him, and bleed him dry. At first, she had resisted, telling Leo she would be his and his alone for her entire life. But Leo was slick. He told her it was just a game to help him, that he found the idea of a hands-off marriage exciting, that he'd desire her more if she was married to someone else, but remained untouched. He swore he would never be with another woman. It was all a lie. In reality, Leo was living it up abroad, partying with a string of women. A few months ago, he'd met an American grad student, younger than him, from a decent family. He spun her a sob story about his tragic life and won her over. The moment he got back to the States, he married her without ever telling Sophia. When Sophia finally found out, she confronted him, hysterical. And Leo, seeing a devoted woman throwing herself at him, simply took her back as his mistress. And of course, the baby Sophia was carrying was his. His final instruction to her must have been to sleep with me once, to pin it on the chump. Her parents' return wasn't a coincidence, either. She must have called them back to witness what she considered a sacred moment. But as the investigation reached its end, I found one last piece of the puzzle, a piece that shattered what was left of my soul. My parents' death. It was connected to his parents. All those years ago, I was just a grieving kid. The police told me nothing. But my PI found the original case file. He uncovered the truth. The accident that killed my parents was the same one his parents had caused. They were the ones in the semi, making that illegal pass on a mountain road, their high beams blinding oncoming traffic. My parents were in the other car. Swerving to avoid the truck on that sharp bend, they went off the cliff. But the final, soul-crushing revelation was this. Leo Vance was the true mastermind. His parents did whatever he said. He planned every scam. The time, the place, the method. Every idea was his. The man who murdered my parents was Leo. The whole investigation took more than half a year. Over that time, my feelings for Sophia curdled from a sliver of hope to despair and finally to something cold and empty. The woman who had been a light in my darkness was a phantom. Worse, I was just a tool, a placeholder, a walking ATM for them to laugh about over dinner. But I wasn't entirely alone in that darkness. I found someone who loved me more than anyone ever had, besides my own parents. That person was Hannah. We saved each other from our private hells. My care and attention was something she'd never known, and slowly, she fell in love with me. The day she learned about Sophia's affair, she confessed everything. She told me she loved me, that she wanted to marry me, that she wanted to have my children. At first, I thought she was just a kid with a crush. I hadn't completely given up on my marriage yet. But as the investigation uncovered more and more of the horrific truth, my despair grew, and Hannah was the only one by my side. She became my rock. I realized I was falling in love with this girl, my own sister-in-law. She was still a senior in high school. I made a deal with her. We would wait. Everything after graduation. If she did well, I promised I would give her anything she wanted. As fate would have it, her 18th birthday fell on the last day of her final exams. That night, after I picked her up, with Sophia, predictably, not coming home, I answered her fierce, passionate love with my own. After that, we were inseparable. We lived for each other, enjoying a secret life in our own little world, exhausting ourselves with a love that was both healing and desperate. When Sophia forced her to get a summer job, I helped her fake one. I gave her money every month to pass off as a paycheck to Sophia. The two of us spent that whole month tangled up in my bed. It lasted until the day she told me her period was late. I felt no panic. Only a calm, grim certainty. I knew this perfect stolen time was over. It was time for the second phase of my plan. During that period, I met with Leo's wife. She was a tall, elegant woman with a sharp intelligence in her eyes. When she learned the truth about Leo's affair with Sophia, she and I struck a secret deal. I agreed to all of her terms. In return, I had one request of my own. She told me she didn't just want a divorce. She wanted to destroy him. She wanted to give him a taste of his own medicine. With Hannah's consent, I helped her. We cheated on our respective partners, together. My only request to her was that if she ever had the chance, if she was ever in a position to, that she would look after Hannah. Sophia's pregnancy, and the fact that she had called her long-absent parents back to town, was a gift from the gods. It gave me the perfect opportunity. My revenge began the moment I picked them up from the hospital. "I'm headed to work, Mom, Dad. Might be a late one, so don't wait up for me for dinner." Humming a little tune, Sophia grabbed her car keys and headed out the door. "Mom, Dad, I'm going to run to the grocery store," I announced, "and I'll drop Hannah off at her job on the way." I grabbed Hannah's arm, pulling her along as she shot me a confused look. Going to the store was a lie. I was tailing Sophia. Dropping Hannah at work was a lie. I was checking her into a hotel room, a safe house to keep her out of the blast radius. After getting Hannah settled, I drove to the coffee shop across from Sophia's office building and waited. I wasn't surprised. Leo was a deadbeat, and Sophia was more than willing to skip work to meet him for a midday rendezvous. They were even going to get a room. What I hadn't expected was the hotel they chose. The Regent. The same hotel where I'd just left Hannah. The irony was so thick, I could taste it. I followed them inside, just another face in the lobby. They were so wrapped up in each other, they didn't notice a thing. I caught a glimpse of the room number, but not the floor. It looked like the room right next to Hannah's. After they got in the elevator, I walked over to the bank of elevators and watched the indicator light. It stopped on 18. I let out a cold, quiet laugh. I couldn't have planned it better myself. I walked out of the hotel and pulled out my phone. "Hey, Mom, Dad, change of plans for dinner. I'm treating you and Sophia to a surprise. Meet me at the Regent Hotel. Lunch is on me." With that, I sat down in the lobby to wait for them. When Sharon and Steve arrived, the show officially began. I used the spare key card for Hannah's room to access the elevator. I walked calmly down the hall to room 1816 and knocked. The door opened a crack. It was Leo. "Who the hell is it?" he growled. "Can't you see I'm busy?" As he peered through the opening, I kicked the door with all my strength. It flew open, sending him staggering back several feet. I strode into the room. Sophia was huddled under the sheets, her face a mask of shock. "Sophia?" I asked, feigning confusion. "What are you doing here?" Then I ripped the comforter off the bed. She was completely naked. "Why don't you have any clothes on?" I sneered. What exactly is going on here? Behind me, Sharon and Steve were speechless. They'd met Leo before, but that was 7 years ago. Seeing him here, now, made no sense to them. "What's it to you?" Leo snarled, getting to his feet. "Why are you so nosy?" "I'm here to catch my wife cheating." "I'd say that makes it my business." "This isn't the pathetic Ethan Miller I remember." Leo sneered, puffing out his chest. Still a loser, though. Can't you see what's happening here, you idiot? Sophia was mine then, and she's mine now. You're the other man. You're the one who should be ashamed. He leaned in, his voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. The baby in her belly isn't yours, either. What are you going to do about it? Huh? Kill me? Ha ha ha. Sophia gazed at him with pure adoration. Steve and Sharon just stared, completely lost. Seeing that he had everyone on his side, Leo got right in my face. And you know what's really funny? That car crash all those years ago. I was trying to kill your parents. The plan went a little sideways, but hey, the result was the same. I didn't say a word. I just smiled a cold, dead smile. I kicked the door shut, slamming it closed. I shoved Leo against it, and in one fluid motion, pulled a folding knife from my pocket. Before he could even register what was happening, I plunged it deep into his gut. Then I did it again, and again, and again. His screams filled the room. Sophia, forgetting she was naked, scrambled off the bed to pull me away. I threw her off, the blade of the knife catching her arm, leaving a deep gash. I didn't stop stabbing until Leo went limp and silent. His blood was all over my face, my hands, my shirt. Sophia, who a moment ago had tried to stop me, was now a whimpering mess on the floor. Murderer, you killed him. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Please, spare me. Please. Steve and Sharon were on their knees, bowing their heads to the floor, begging. From outside, I could hear shouting, frantic fists pounding on the door. I calmly walked over and threw the deadbolt. I turned to them, the knife still in my hand, and slit both their throats. Standing over their bodies, I whispered, "Do better in next life." Sophia was completely catatonic, paralyzed by terror, lying in a spreading pool of blood. Her lips moved, repeating the same few words over and over. Without a shred of mercy, I walked over to her and gutted her like a fish. Her scream was so piercing it felt like it would shatter my eardrums. And then I started to laugh. A wild, unhinged laugh that turned into a gut-wrenching sob. I didn't know what I was feeling, but I knew I had avenged my parents. I was supposed to feel good, right? The pounding on the door grew louder. A crack appeared in the wood. Then, the door splintered and burst open. 2 police officers rushed in and cuffed me. I didn't resist. And then I saw her, standing in a crowd that had gathered in the hallway. Hannah, her eyes wide with horror. The sight of her made my blood run cold. I looked up at the ceiling. "It's over," I said to no one, the tears finally streaming down my face. In the courtroom, the judge asked me how I pleaded. A strange sense of peace washed over me. I smiled, a tired, broken smile, and looked at the faces in the jury box. "Do you want to know," I began, my voice quiet but clear, "how a man falls into the abyss?" I took a deep breath. "I plead guilty,"